All right. All right. Good morning. So we start with making a short mandala offering, and then Geshe will lead the way with refuge in bodhicitta, and then some other stuff will happen. Just a second. Sa shi bu ki jun shi me to ram ri ram ling shi ni de gen pa de san ye shindu mi te o wa gi do kunam da shin la chu pa sho idang guru ratna mandala kamniyatayami.
Sangi Chedan Tsojin Chonum La Chanchu Bardu Dani Kyabsun Chi Dagi Chishi Jibin Tsonum Jolan Penshi Sangi Drupara Shu Sangi Chedan Tsojin Chonum La Chanchu Bardu Dani Kyabsun Dagi Chishi Jibin Tsonum Jolan Penshi Sangi Drupara Shu Sanji Chedan Tsojin Chonum La Chanchu Bardu Dani Kyabsun Dagi Chishi Jibin Tsonum Ji Jolan Ben Sanji Drupara Shu Kangi Tuzi Nizone Tawa Tamji Pambi Cheri Tambi Chun Denzi Kodam Kela Changse Lo Good morning everyone. Diri kya mani tsungi so kashi yosaris and tuzula mixing some years.
We are about to start, I think that tonight, a retreat on Chenrezig, recitation of the mantra Om Mani Padme Hum. So it is likely that there are few people here that are going to participate in that retreat. So Geshe said heartfelt greeting for everyone.
Is that the Zuki Chembushu ra that Jawarum Chigi Nanzmanche Jawarum Sonju Sendegori Tichidi the kitchen bushu ra bigi the money retreat so the money saya maimba so pava tuji chembo ra pava tuji chembo slawon di ten bigi the ngubi nesu di ta tabkilo tuji chembo debi tembo kadin chinki tugile yebi ani tsewa nyinji chembo di chago sares ta dida number tombaji ngaran sula gile ya and ninji chunche and the compult time tea the money retreat to ra money pigi that some yanda kavya to them so the and ninji chimbo compult time the chago sares ra.
So this retreat that will start today and will go all the way to Friday is called the Mani Retreat, in which we'll focus on the recitation of the mantra Om Mani Padme Hum. But and as such, it is an important practice, emphasized also in His Honour's teaching, His Honour's Dalai Lama. But it's not that just the mere recitation of the mantra is important, but when we look at what the actual meaning of that is, the actual meaning is great compassion. So the Buddha, the one that we follow, the Buddha, the teacher, has developed in the core of his heart, great compassionate love. And in this practice, we seek to give rise to compassion in our own mind. Not only to give rise to compassion, but to increase it more and more. And this is the very core of this practice, the very heart of this practice. And this is what we're going to do in the next few days.
테레 딘자다 딘디기다 지 닌지티 피게 오늘 탄니게다 지 산지 토비게다 탑 초드 겨바 차야라야 아니 디기 아 신제스나문도 초텔야 아니 동문인 도비 셔럽디 로 간지 다음에 버 도비 셔럽디 sananda tenjong tobi sherab sananda di o kichi shu ra khazan ka ta jawrum jigen do de jing sonju kawla ya tamje nenju sem komya de ta ani pe ani dom chembu kayo la yo shu jiresh son de di tanda deres ini inji da dame ba tobi sherab ni bodi sonjer chin komya di ani tamje nenju sem sananda 심지 탐지기 저도 도저히 안 하면 양답을 이한답을다 조비 산지 고모토비기 탑 아니 초두기와 만상 매바디 아니 탑신이지 디차가도 왔어 이제 디돌이야 가주스 그 도섬 시에토야 아니 디쪽다 아니 마네르 트디 된다 데마시 차고서레스 땅이 다스 말한 삼주 좀 쉬고 그인스로
The development of compassion is the best method for attaining the state of Buddhahood. And what assists the development of the mind of enlightenment, or you can say that what accompanies the development of the mind of enlightenment is our own wisdom, the wisdom that realizes selflessness. So this is the most important thing to do, to combine both the development of wisdom, the wisdom of selflessness, with bodhicitta, the mind of enlightenment. And these two come together into what we call the all-yogic mind. His Holiness the Dalai Lama recently gave a couple of days of teachings on Maitreya's ornament for the Mahayana Sutra, and he spoke about the all-yogic mind, which condenses these two aspects of method and wisdom, the wisdom of selflessness. So these two are combined into the all-yogic mind. So we think that for the sake of all sentient beings that extend to the reaches of space, I will attain the state of Buddhahood, complete Buddhahood. And in order to do that, I will combine in my practice method and wisdom. The method of bodhicitta, the mind of enlightenment, and the wisdom of selflessness. And whatever we do in the next few days in the Mani retreat, Geshe reckons that it's good, it's important to keep in mind that we need to combine these two, method and wisdom. And if we do all the activities in the retreat, if we do all the recitation and other bits in the retreat with these two, bodhicitta and the wisdom of selflessness, then this retreat for us will become very meaningful.
테레스 딘상 안도다 지 조사 드비장 가도 제비 카발이 카 힘바이네야 아니 지 피게 캡스처사디 아니 라마 예담 아니 최종 티기당 안주 캡처사기 율 연하면은 차고레스 딘자 까보기 다지 많이 피게 아니 년섬 까발이야 다지 시비글라 바보 도지 전부 코라랑 제리스 차고레스 아니 지 디츠 지 잡이 넘버 천샤바디 까버디 아니 이담 땀징 따버디 믹스지 차고서레스 아니 지 이담 그 생각든지 깝걸려야 사투바이나 닌지 아니 지 산지 파비 투규기 제가 닌지 전부 이담 그 넘버 천바디 그 까버기 비기다 그 버켜버전스 이담 그 넘버 천바디 아니 이담 땀진 찍 차고레스 데니 찍체 경기 남베 쳬페바디 아니 고모 차르버레스 어딘지기 아니 대번 아니 데야라 소바 아니 이담 그 생각 어딘지 테 사토바나 아니 페마시와 겐신 캬바친 조사레스 다치 라미 넘버 쳬데 땅안도 슈고 마레 아니 겨르무치다 잠블링기 시데 테베 뒤단 넘버 건도 아니 참년지 짱짱 손에 패되게 여봐 어디다 콩러왔어 더 딘디질이야 땡치니 아니 라미넨주 테스 짱토바나 테니 마니르 트레드 텐데 데마치 차이 임바데 다 야치 야담바레스 도보코라 요마레스
We use such practices for accumulating the collections and purifying obscurations. And so we accumulate the collections, we purify obscurations, we go for refuge. And in all those practices, we combine relying upon alamas as spiritual teachers, relying upon meditational deities, which are called yidams. We rely upon Dhamma protectors. So this particular practice that we're going to do in the Mani retreat is involved with Chenrezig, Arya Avalokiteshvara, who is a deity that arises as a peaceful aspect of the aspect of compassion. So Chenrezig is representing compassion in a peaceful aspect, and there is another deity which is called Hayagriva, which is a wrathful deity, also symbolic of compassion, right? So we have peaceful aspect in Arya Avalokiteshvara, we have a wrathful aspect in Hayagriva. Both of them stand for great compassion. Now, we also have the aspect of compassion embodied by a Dhamma protector. This Dhamma protector is called Six Arms Mahakala. So Geshe reckons that if when we do such a recitation, such a retreat, if we include also from time to time recitations of the wrathful aspect of compassion of Hayagriva, and also from time to time also some recitation of the mantra of the Dhamma protector, embodying compassion, six arms Mahakala, then it will serve a particular virtuous purpose. So in terms of the Lama that we rely upon, then we rely upon, for example, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, who is for us a great leader, leading us to the development of great compassionate love, loving kindness and compassion. This is what His Holiness always emphasizes in his teachings, whenever he gives teaching. So we rely upon His Holiness the Dalai Lama. So it's also sometimes from time to time good to also do a Guru Yoga involved with relying upon spiritual teachers. So combining all these different aspects together, Geshe reckons that if you do a retreat combining or bringing together all those different aspects, then it becomes very meaningful.
어디리 그래서 담마무시 먹어지라 배낭 공부 차두비게 되버송디 홍윤지 제리스라 차즈라스 고당보 코란이야 제리스 간지 인지라 디고 되버 코란올라야 배 무송샤르스 이제 딘디 토니마 지 아니 산지파비 투규기 아니 저원인지 전부 아니 최경은 넘버 전부 임바치 간지 저원인지 전부 아니 최경은 넘버 샤와 임바치 삼토바나 아니 지 가서 다지 로 델로로디 로가시렌도 왔으라 배 아니 지 어딘지 양양지 삼토바나 아니 로 데부 이치나 엔 펠투야 어디 또 다지 족틀레세디 용야디다 도바요 말했으라 수수기 이체다 대바탐식 약부 주여봐나 나간도 취경기 틀리 주야기 틀린 주 말했으면 도바 거고서 말했어 다도 라다 냠는 게 내가 지그랬어
So we also mentioned the Dhamma protector, six arms Mahakala, who sometimes when we do the recitation of the six arms Mahakala practice, the practice begins with a recitation of a certain prayer in which we pay homage to Chenrezig at the very beginning. So this Dhamma protector for us represents great compassion, right? So if you then pay homage to great compassion embodied by this Dhamma protector, Geshe reckons that for the duration of such practices, your mind will be at ease. When you develop trust in that practice, there's no doubt that such Dhamma protector will enact their enlightened activities for you. So with a sense of trust in that, with enacting the enlightened activity, there is no doubt that all those things entailed within your practice and relying upon the Dharma protector and so forth, all of them will come to pass.
다 딘자 당한지 냠내 칸르스 제기 바이냐 라 학돈도 찍다 찍 태바 침비기 아니 냠내 제발이야 아니 냠내 디기 라민넨주 그 나로라야 춘 되버시 뒤투고도스 라 라민넨주 그 냠낸 춘 뒤니 아니 냠내 제발은 냠내티 세드 덴바 차고레스 딘자다 라민넨주라야 기디망부 도스 다 까부기 아니 지 투지침비랑시 아니 저 튕기다비 라미넨저 칠럽진 슈드리 요르스더라 아니 제바이 바이나 마 저롱치 랑기 제샤비 라미넨저 아니 첸리스드리 라미넨저 제바이르다 디치 까보고 초가데 딘디 토네 림부다 차그메바이나 비기 뒤뒤디 돈이니지 손도 주빌람 세 데코랑기 로 식시디 아니 데사 안디톨이야 비기 직 동번인데 인지 돈이도비 셔르데 인지 손도 제비 담진는 적 샘티 야 테스토스시 어두스니 아니 고츠 샤바이나 페마스베 야고 차서 상우도스라
So whatever we practice, particularly or especially in Mahayana practice, all those different practices are subsumed into the practice of Guru Yoga, and there are different extents of Guru Yoga practices that we take up. If we have just a brief time, we can do a brief Guru Yoga practice. If we have more time, we can do an extensive one. There is one that is on as the Dalai Lama composed. There is one that is particularly tailored to the practice of Chenrezig. So if we have time, Geshe reckons, and also from time to time, it's good to do a complete Guru Yoga practice in relying upon Chenrezig. If we have just a brief time, then there is this verse, prayer that spontaneously fulfills all wishes. Several of the Snowland teachings and transmigratory beings who makes extremely clear the path that is unification of emptiness and compassion to the Lord's holder, Tenzin Gyatso, I beseech. May all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. So we can include this verse, we can rely upon this verse as a brief version of the Guru Yoga practice. We combine it together with the development of the all yogic mind, which, as we said before, combines these two aspects into our mind, the aspect of method, the aspect of wisdom, bodhicitta, and the wisdom that realizes selflessness. So you do that at the beginning of your practice, and that leads you to the actual practice, which has a great effect over the actual practice.
레디 여러분들 랑 제친다 코나랑기 때 샤진 안 샤교치 차그를 먼저 직 아니 진주 도자기 직 대바쟁기다 믹스기 체도 피샤교치 딘디 차고 말은 코나랑 그 송바인자 그래서 쉬우다 다들 하가지 아니 라미넨주 키치야지 다요 말이스로 요 말이스티.
So this particular prayer was composed by His Holiness the Dalai Lama rather than someone else composing it for him. He himself composed that, and in such Geshe reckons that there is no other verse or other prayer that is more potent than this.
대당한주 까보기 들이 자니마 제니 로종 니미에 서레스로 당한주 3절 뒤 3년망이 됐지 슈긴스.
Anyway, that's going to start tonight, and what we do now is pick up from the point that we left off in the previous session. So normally on the Sunday morning teachings, we are looking at a text that is called Mind Training Like the Rays of the Sun. Geshe will pick up, as we said, from the point that we left off. We're currently looking at the practice of giving and taking.
인선다 델레야 로종 생고란레야 로종 슬라운디 로종 바이나 로레 펭고레스 샘레 펭고레스 루 종치나 루레 펭바난시 로종치나 샘레 펭기여바디 고 가르소다 지 춘이 로지레스 로 맞 규긴 tumbi 규긴 상바이나 아니 야부차야다 tumbi 규긴 만상바이나 아니 냠로야 디고 춘이라서 뒤지 춘이 딘자 로종디야 로종바이나 로르 펭글 샘레 펭글스 로 샘레야지 가주스기 아니 펜바 티츠기 시대 파페 망 용구 여바 아니 지금 샘레야 시대 파페 가주 여바 티츠기 아니 지금 뭐여 내출래야 삼로 땅투야 남주 전투야 되는 지 샴페인기 셴레야 펜비기 자발랍셴레야 슈투야 두 삼로 자와디 샘 시대래야 두고도스 샘 파페 보메 샘 기부메 샘 시대 메바이나 아니 두 삼로 땅야 and treated chagdos tinza and lokazus jantuba tizugi and lolaya pape yungris or dindi ton the lojon sungdos
주delande.
treaters and the young major.
Anyway, so we're looking at this practice of mind training. Mind training, like the rays of the sun, as the name of the text suggests. So this practice of mind training is something that benefits the mind. Just like saying that if you undertake physical training, they help your body in a particular way. Also, this practice of mind training is benefiting our mind. So that is something that naturally happens. When you train your mind is getting benefit from the training. That happens when all the cause and conditions for doing that are complete. Without having a complete set of cause and conditions, our mental training will decline. Also, that's a natural occurrence. So we take up a practice of mind training, as we said, that helps the mind. It helps the mind to engender a state of mind that is more at peace, a state of mind that is well. And if our mind becomes more peaceful, a better state of mind, then it is a good basis for the development of mental serenity, of mental well-being, of developing an altruistic intention that seeks to benefit others. Without that mental peace, mental quiescence, without a mind that is well, without a mind that seeks to benefit others, Geshe reckons that whatever we set out to do or whatever intentions we have, we will not be able to accomplish them with a mind that is not at peace, that is not restful.
데르다 레츠ik 드마직 시잔은 딕사리스터 가정안주 참디 데르데 대들 동이 삼바 장장 지식 팬냠낭세 손인 탈신은 산지 추구되어야 삼모스 텔레샤인 삼스
단독하게 커버
대들 동이 삼바 장장 지식 팬냠 쇼등 같은 게 있대요. 통사
Jason the getsa tonya the drosarve.
제 getsa tonya zodo 거다디.
So getsa tonya the drosarve.
로사라 숨바 getsa tonya 딜마 쇼 직스 완전
Cancer. Okay, so we're just gonna find a relevant point in the text. Just a second. All right. So one of the points that we've covered before asked the following question. Should you wonder what is the use of training in the thought of giving? It is that unless you train from now on, later you will be unable to make even the smallest gifts, which will be an impediment.
대등한줄 디 제와디 요르스터 라서지.
Rasa.
대들 동의 삼바 장제 지식 팬색 다 디 제와디 당한줄 삼을래야 제와 셈나노래야 라 다 제와디 요르스 다 산지 추 마용당로디 고츠바니 제니 아니 탈 제부 산지 공부 마토 바르도 안 참말로 지 자바 가르쳐 봐야네요. samlo 가르쳐 봐야네요. 펜도 여버지. 초라 만조시. 대한지 펜스에 소수지고 많이 봐. 아니 지 비기 남기타는 예비 심지어 탐지기 쳇 펜데드야. some 딘디지 고는 타버도 딘디지 된 제와 차데샤스.
So just to contextualize this section that begins with asking the question, should you wonder what is the use of training in the thought of giving? That's a question that comes up in our mind quite often. We take up a certain practice and we wonder, what's the benefit of this practice? What benefit do I get from training my mind in this particular way? So here the text says that when we look at what we do in terms of the Buddha Dharma, right from the very beginning, all the way to the attainment of the state of Buddhahood, whatever we do in order to be accomplished well, in order for our efforts not to go to waste, we need to do it in keeping in mind that we're doing it for the sake of all sentient beings that extend to the reaches of space, for the sake of providing others with happiness and benefit.
데리딘자 펜다타 디임바인자 안주 칼라 세바이나 비기게 된다 여바지. 그러 드로바이나 된다 여바지. 니쿠바이나 된다 여바지. 타나 아니 체디 존에 류 돌아봐 제발이야. 아니 된다 댐바지. 용약이 탑시다 가디는 송고도스.
So then in whatever we do, we train the mind with the attitude of wishing to be of benefit and bliss to all sentient beings. And whatever we do, even as far as eating a food, if we go and travel somewhere, even when we go to sleep, all those different activities will become meaningful. And at the end of our life, when our life will be exhausted and we will leave the body behind and continue on, then we will have lived a life that will have been very meaningful.
다 딘지 용에 제발이야 녜라야 지 비기게 로종데 매바이나 로종데 매바이나 르이 비기게 추지기 딱바 템보 소르다 지 아니 착섬을 소비 딘지기 손대바이나 아니 가르땅 고촌에 땅 마트고 지 그러 펜도 드마트고 제가서 로종 치고 도세디 디니 송고였을 삼고도스.
And without training the mind in this way, if we hold on to a sense of stability and permanence to this life, which means that we will also have a great sense of attachment and clinging, in which we will not be able to relinquish, to give up the things that we have, even at the point in which we will get to the end of our life and close to the transference from this lifetime to the next, we'll still be unable to give up or to relinquish the things, all the different things that we've had in this life. Means that this sense of attachment and clinging will be of no help to us. So this is the type of mental training that we take up in this section.
세상에는 로종체는 로비 로종네로 메버체네 신라파 땅야 메버체는 두스 로 콤디 테바이나스 로 콤디 테바이나 아니 다른 무스 비 지랑기 양라로 소법이 제니 아니 신라 땅와라야 아니 지 대점 써니니 메바 가신 조싱한 땅투에지 디 용구요인자 로종 치고레스 로종야게 펜도디 테레스 어딘디 송구요서레스.
So what this section is probably saying with respect to the benefits of training a mind, it says that if we train a mind in this way, we're doing a practice in which we visualize a certain way of giving, and we visualize that we give away our body possessions and roots of virtues for the sake of others. And when we're doing it again and again and again, train our mind in visualizing giving away our body, for example, at some point at the end, we get to the point in which if there is a case in which we would have to give a part of our body to someone else, we do it with a great sense of delight. We do it happily and joyfully for the sake of others. So this is the benefit of such mental training in which we visualize that we're giving away our body possessions and roots of virtue.
디나 다다똥심 김여바 마자나 다수 총야 무수 똥올라 계승교와 라상그 시발에 송라스 친중지 떼고 총나야 제마투야 비기티 직 세나다 인디 배 심친으로 용대 용그레스 다다네 동섬 장신 건버치나 건방안도 유 왕기 르르 소보 응수 동와라야 가와치에메 번규디 땡이지 잡올리 제다 마운드 민달라 텔레니비 또바 대단 대신시 텔레 셈션 귤 셰당 바바 바위샬니 셴펜 레란 투메겐 대삼바다우차 강르텐 여기와 텔레텐 땡기슈 셰당 차가워심이샤니 시수 지치 남도종 rabdun la so pedama shedan kerevle tongshin tösum jesu tenyaron regum tawtu jaba samjita namba kondun dola pemba dedan temba tawtu yeju chi sonsos.
As the text says, should you wonder what is the use of training in the thought of giving, it is that unless you train from now on, later you will be unable to make even the smallest gifts, which will be an impediment. The question of Subawa Sutra says, if you train the mind to give right away with prolonged familiarity, you will find no difficulty in actually giving away your body and so forth. The King of Meditative Stabilization Sutra also says, just as the more you analyze something, your conceptions about it increase, so does your mind become acquainted with it. Ayavira says, however weak is your intention to benefit others, you should always abide by this thought. Whoever has such a thought will bring it to fulfillment. The great Chekawa said, the more you acquaint with it, the more you purify conceptions. Take the help of many examples, such the 7 generations in 7 generations. Now, next in birth stories, we read, may all my actions, such as seeing, hearing, remembering, touching, and even conversing, be of benefit to beings, and may I always work to give them peace. In this way, by practicing generosity sincerely towards all sentient beings, we can instantly accumulate merit as innumerable as the beings themselves.
Derda di paradelia chiwa chi ta yebi sorojresrwa ta ani ta tongsam jaondi tongsam jamwe kabdulaya samja thamche laya kharchini migo gres ro suzu pi chik tanggo sa soroj gasanye sa sor tendijila pa tangyo ba ani jana khariores thamche laya migo kharese ta chiwaji yongchogros chiwa dindiji yongchogros ro.
So this part suggests a question. We might be wondering, in thinking of giving, visualizing that we give away to others, why do we need to focus on all other sentient beings? Wouldn't it be right just to think of giving to those who are close to our heart? So we have friends and relatives and so forth. So in training and giving, why won't we just train in giving to them rather than think of all sentient beings? What's the use of thinking of all sentient beings in training and giving?
Radi tang tusa jilaya tang gores lawayna le lawu yoros tangi yinyambi tang yu nyambi myoba chewa yina ya susu chik nang rosa juda tusa jilaya chewa yina le lawu yoros da chik susu magasa susu chik dukbu tang dengi marab chi dengi dindi jilaya pa chik yabu che gores myoba che gores lana nangzu le tangbo wala kala kabu nyokda yoros dara samlu tang yana nyokda yoros da ngosi jimbada pa shani da di kharchini da simjan tamjilaya myo goresegi tsik nyokda tsawadi kajini peju chi gores lawondi da di lendo di dan di wani tsik di tuyengudus ra.
It is easier for us to train with those people that are close to our heart. It's easy to give to those who we like, right? To those relatives and friends that you really like. It's easy to train in giving to them. But then what about with people that you dislike? People that mistreat you, people that cause you some harm. It's so hard to train in giving to them, let alone giving them in practicality, but also training your mind in giving to them is extremely hard. So first of all, we understand the benefit of training in giving to all sentient beings.
Terita dilaya 대달 심전 탐제라 삼바 탁베 땅위 율 심전 진예바 디니 경원이 소놈기 첩박도 매바 델라도 조데스 린진 참말리 대개 제비 소놈간 가데되는 수진규 남긴 감는 건가 되는 대회 하버린 겨 되는 좀 된데 이게 손스 댄지 들라나 심전 감는 세멜라 펜도잔 텐도스 어디 렌디 디자기도 왔어.
So again, this section says, in this way, by practicing generosity sincerely towards all sentient beings, we can instantly accumulate merits as innumerable as the beings themselves. The Precious Galen says, if the merits of speaking thus could be given physical form, it would completely fill the whole of space and even overflow that. This was stated by the Buddha, and supported by sound reasons. For just as the number of beings is beyond limit, so is the intention of benefiting them. The intention to benefit them.
대서 땅안주기에 미율 탈투보다 제와 여바치 땅안주 세나다 대버친 비추 증인디기 아니 토자 탈투보 카레스디 산지 공반티 라 심전 탐지 되던 줍퉁인기 산지 공반티 토자 탈투보라 왔어. 그래서 토자 탈투보 제부 딘디지 온데 제발이야 아니 소니 델라도 소니 용수 조고 완자 소니 용수 조고 완자 그 가진 희망 안주 장여다 곰불로 두기 개원디 개오군 소노이 소사디 소노이 실내종의 담박인 토벌 쇼세디 이 소놈 초다 이시기 초 용수 조벌 때네 산기 공반디 두고 연자 또 소놈 초 조베기 탑이 약슈디 아니 심지한 탐jel라 봐 아니 동랭 고미야티 아니 심지한 탐jel라야 공바이나 심진 세메발 냠비게 아니 속 세메발 조도 그랬어 뒤깨지 맞지래야 심지한 탐jel라 미니 삼로티 땅바이나 뒤깨지 맞지기리라야 아니 속 담에바 사투야지 어디 연구한자 아니 산기고 델라던 주야 주투야야 그 뒤깨지 맞지래야 용투야지 삼로 야고지 땅도나 디연구여라스
Focusing on all sentient beings and training our mind and giving to them is related to the goal that we seek to attain. Our final object of attainment, our final goal is the state of Buddhahood. And to attain the state of Buddhahood, we need to complete the two collections, the accumulation of merit and the accumulation of exalted knowledge. So if we work on contributing, building up the accumulation of merit and exalted knowledge, on that basis, would be able to attain the state of enlightenment. Just as Nagarjuna said in one of his writing, one of the dedication verses, due to this virtue, my complete the two accumulations, the accumulation of merit and the accumulation of exalted wisdom. And it depends upon accumulating the two accumulations, may swiftly attain the two bodies of Buddha. So when we think of the completion of the two collections, depending upon them, we attain the state of Buddhahood. This practice of giving and taking, and practice that is called in Tibetan Tonglen, a practice that focuses on all sentient beings, is a practice that is so effective, so potent in completing the two collections. As we focus on immeasurable sentient beings, we accumulate immeasurable collections. Even just for an instant, we generated for an instant a thought that includes immeasurable sentient beings, then in one instant we accumulate an immeasurable amount of merit, or immeasurable amount of the collections.
데레다 데니 비기다지 류 론저 게자드 제바 사마 땅고야기에 균센 빼침부로 대수 삼투나 다 야부 빼요레스 가이스나 난주 제부 상기 사이에 고송투 비기다지 아니 텔레 론저 아니 베멜런도 가리어바 사마로 두지기 쉐로스 두지기 쉐인자 콜라야 gyöda kyenla teni chongor mato gyöge mansang wege ani jebu trup dengi duji uchojik zawani sigyo marwas te me wanzas bena sangi kundribige ani gyu ani loba lamji nekawsu kundribi gyu kundribi gyu koran drugo gores song dribi gyödya loba lamji nekawsu drugo gores ani tugre ani sangi sai tachi ani tilim bemel hundrun jonyo soba ani chi longjun bemel hundrun la soba tu sama logi gyudi loba lamji nekawsu susu gyudru go yansa ani longjun dribya gichitu longjun tang kun dribya gichitu ku tang song dribya gichitu ta pigi ani chi shenla ya tsik sambuji modo lama lam tu sun drobayna ani sangi dribya gita gyuge mansang meba sayadi tsangin korwas 마도 초그레 와지 치는 로바이나 아니 상기 투게지 여서 말아왔어.
So here we train in giving away our body, our possessions, and roots of virtues. And it is important to train in all of them in order to attain a state of enlightenment. And there are reasons why it is important to train in giving away our body, possessions, and roots of virtues in light of why they contribute to the state of Buddhahood. So when we attain the state of Buddhahood, we attain the body, the speech, and mind of Buddha, which means that we attain those qualities, the qualities of Buddha, physical qualities, verbal qualities, mental qualities of Buddha, including also enlightened activities that the Buddha performs, and also resources, enjoyments that the Buddha utilizes. And all of those things are compounded, which means that they are brought about through depending upon causes and conditions. So at the time of training along the path, we need to create those causes and conditions for developing the body, the speech, the mind of the Buddha, the enlightened qualities or the enlightened activities of the Buddha, and also the resources of the Buddha. Without creating a complete set of causes and conditions, those qualities of body, speech, and mind, enlightened activities and results and resources will not come to pass. They will not be attained. It is impossible to attain all of those sets of qualities with an incomplete set of causes and conditions. So at a time of training, being a trainee along the path, what we do is we train in creating the causes for a Buddha body, for a Buddha speech, for a Buddha's mind, for a Buddha's enlightened activities, for a Buddha's resources. All those different causes need to be created. They need to be assembled, because if we do not train in the development of these causes, the state of Buddhahood will not be attained. It is impossible to attain it with incomplete causes and conditions.
데레 베나 상기기 툭라 툭 넘버 탐진 김비 이시 툭 저인지 첨보 디 드비야기 gyödi 베나 동반이 또비 셔럽다 아니 직 인지 잔주고 셈나 소바 되게 고메드랜다 다 디직보 고메네 베게 다직 동반이 또비 셔럽다 인지직보 고메네 아니 상기기 코송 툭숨 든 드웨 열었으나 든 드웨 여서 말했어 든 드웨 여서 말 din drivya yobayina ani kun drivya gichedo nganzu ta chik ani pigita nyamne tsetongbu leon digi ani chik la gomya la soba ro dagye gomya la soba di yongo yamandos ro di pigi zu suku drivya gichedo su kikun drivya gi su gikku gi ta chik tomo mayi pigi gyu drivya gichedo ani dagye gomya la soba di yongo yores ro tuk dhruvyagi gyuchikpo dhruv sanji kusong tuk dhruvyabana an dhruv tabdi ten goya mejo dhruchik yachi gyatama chagwaras samla yagu tambayana dhruv kanta jimbayana ko dan tumbi gyuchik mena ko yungu mebada hagobayana ani nganzu kari ina lu nga yiksum lu longchu geza da chibi toni ani tsoksa dhrujan che goyagi nenga di semla rantrugres di trebayana ani 런두 냐차 가득가다 이나야 아니 초사드지 제기 여바지 아니 제시바지 아니 초사드전 교부 조트야지 교부 상기 컴퓨터도야지 딘디 토니 연구였어레스
So then when you start to think about it, think about, for example, a Buddha's mind. So A Buddha's mind, a mind that is enveloped in great compassion, and a mind that is a knower of all aspects, which means an omniscient mind, is developed through wisdom that realizes selflessness, and compassion, which is compassion and the mind of enlightenment, or the mind of enlightenment that is rooted in compassion. So then you might wonder, is it enough for me to just meditate on great compassionate love and wisdom that realizes selflessness in order to attain the state of enlightenment? Is it that the only thing that I need to be doing is to meditate on these two? Well, while these two contribute to a Buddha's mind, still, when we think of attaining the state of Buddhahood and having a complete set of qualities of body, speech, and mind, enlightened activities and resources of Buddha, just to meditate on loving kindness or compassion and bodhicitta on one hand, and the wisdom of selflessness on the other is not going to be enough. So, for attaining other qualities of Buddha, we have other forms of method that we're taught. Like, for example, a unique cause for attaining the state of a unique cause for attaining the form body of Buddha is meditating on a deity, doing a practice that is called a self-generation, in which we arise in the form of a deity. So this is said to be a practice for creating the unique causes for attaining the form body of Buddha. So had it been enough to only meditate on bodhicitta on one hand, and wisdom that realizes selflessness on the other, for attaining the complete set of qualities of Buddha, there would be no need to teach other methods such as self-generation sadhanas and so forth. So then, if we think then of creating the full set of qualities of body, speech, and mind through amassing all the causes for the qualities of body, speech, and mind of Buddha, then we also include with that the practice of giving and taking. We give away our body, possessions, and roots of virtue. And if we know how to do this practice, then in whatever we do throughout the day, when we go somewhere, when we travel somewhere, when we sit down, when we lay down, we will know how to include all those different practices for accumulating the collections, for purifying negativities and obscurations, in dependence upon which we will swiftly be able to attain the state of Buddhahood.
다드니 데 다디 잠니 딱쭉 갈순 거리슬라운디 땅 안주 비기에 대버친 비추엘라야 슈 그라 아 지소 파신 트루다 소비 다 냠네 디기 켈렌치 아니 잔주스미 동보송서비 제레야 다직 소수기 르가 이섬디 심전 탐지기 제도 바 땅기 인슬라우지 심전 탐지기 제도 땅기 인슬라우지 샤도 거라
Get up there, but could I get down again if I get up there?
만드슬라스 야 심전 탐지기 제도 땅기 인슬라우지 다 담자다 마소나 라마 기위신이 둘라야 샤자베 제라 아니 지금 르가 이섬디 셴라 땅선 바지레스 다 셴라 땅선 바인자 대당 톰바지기 자바지 제 마도 바나 안 가두이나 예바 코에데야지 용 무시고 마레스 인자 딘디 돌이야 두섬 시단 송고도 스타로
So then what is indicated by this section, the main point that is indicated by this section is an advice for our practice. So once we engage the Mahayana Dhamma, we take up the practice of the Mahayana Dhamma. We commit ourselves to practice the 6 perfections, such as generosity. We take upon ourselves the Bodhisattva vow. And in taking upon ourselves the Bodhisattva vow, we think that I'm going to give away my body, possessions, and roots of virtue for the sake of all sentient beings. So then in thinking of having given away our body, possessions, and roots of virtue for the sake of all sentient beings, in making that commitment through a practice, the practice of the Mahayana Dhamma, the 6 perfections, the taking of the Bodhisattva vow, and so forth, if we behave in a way that is different to that, In that we think I've committed my body, speech, and mind to others, but in practicality, we don't really do that. Geshe reckons that it's not impossible to incur a fault. So it's good to think about it. It's good to think of, first of all, the intention that we set in committing ourselves to um, to um, to practice the 6 perfections and so forth, but also to make sure that in practical sense we also follow it up with our behavior.
제 나주다 동발 렌니 동바 마소나 녀바 여바나시 직바라다 동바 세디 캘린지로스 캘린치니 라네 마더나 학든드다 직 찬주스비고 동바 송치니 라네 마더바이나 뺑녀바 침보 간스나 심전 탐지로 심전 탐지 초주자와 세다 제바 반드 주치니 다 티치힌스 라브로스 진짜 개와 드브나 아니 심전 탐에 받은 냠비 초주자와 세다 제바는 냠비 게자 중고레스 마제바나 대단 냠비기 녀바치 중고한자 녀바 빼침부레샤스 다 딘디 이체도 다 땅사베 jelaya kaduna semnalaya 직 아니 년지 잔주고 셈 아니 직 심전 탐지기 주도 산지 코마치 탐나지 마로 냠비 로디 가두 텐투바이나 로 수수다지 칼라사요 카우드이나리 니코 카우드이나리 다 가르 제바이나야 론두냐자 강가우즈네 딘디지 테스트 콜론지 티에토바나 다 디체도 소르 차바이나 아니 가르를 론제바이나야 아니 가르쳐봐야냐 셴펜란 줘야지 아니 찬주쌤이 그 넘바다 망가와지 야야다 차고 그랬어
So we've mentioned the taking of the bodhisattva vow. So if we've taken the bodhisattva vow, then we need to make sure that we do not incur faults with respect to the commitment that we've made. Because the taking of the vow, the taking of a vow, means that we make a certain promise. We commit ourselves to do something, we pledge, or we make a promise to do it. So not doing what we've committed ourselves to do, what we've promised to do, is a fault. Particularly in relation to the bodhisattva vow, it becomes a great fault because the promise was made in a particular context. So when we take upon ourselves the bodhisattva vow, we visualize, first of all sentient beings together with us. We also visualize Buddhas and bodhisattvas of the 10 directions in front of us. And in the presence of all of them, taking all of them as witnesses, we make the pledge of bodhicitta to attain the state of enlightenment for the sake of others, and also to enact the welfare of others through the practice of the 6 perfections. So we make a promise, we make a pledge to do all of this in the presence of all those beings, so that whatever virtuous action we take up, whatever training in virtue we take up, then we accumulate this great accumulation of virtue because we have made that promise, that commitment in the presence of all sentient beings and the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions. And similarly, if we do not keep up with the promise that we made, then of course it becomes a great fault because we made that promise in the presence of all those great beings. So then, if you think about the commitment that we make when we take upon ourselves the bodhisattva vow and the commitment, the pledge that we have made, then in whatever we do, we keep in mind this compassionate motivation, compassion and bodhicitta, the wish to attain the state of enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings. In whatever we do, when we eat something, when we go to sleep, in whatever activity we do, when we travel somewhere, when we sit down, when we lay down, if we keep that motivation to a certain degree in our mind, then whatever we do will be something that is done for the sake of others, an activity that is done for the sake of others, which will then become a great virtue. Otherwise, if we fail to do that, we will end up transgressing or violating the commitments that we have made.
대들 삼바 타바니 심젤라 땅이 세 그속 롱주비치 셴뱅기 삼바 제지 삼바 메나송거라 랑라 세베 롱제나 뉴무쟁기 동화당스 랑라 세바 메지 셴기 셴뱅기 삼바 제나 셴뱅기 삼바 메나 랑라 세바 메 셴뱅기 삼바 메 따지 파메베 소르지 롱제나 뉴무제 마이 동송시 젠라 뭐바 민로와 가시기 시신 릭니 다기치비치 란된도 코숨기 제제른 당차나 소더기 판반조와 럽딜이 손소 원하대다 잔주선비 론치비치 지들 잔냠나 잔주선바움 잔주선비 dom버디데미 간사디 론치비치 지들 잔냠나 심진기 된차우 냠비 삼비잖아 니바메도스.
So the text continues in saying, when we use food, clothes, and so on that we have sincerely dedicated to other beings, if we forget the welfare of others and use them with attachment to ourselves, it is a deluded downfall, which means that it is an afflicted downfall. If it is done free from such attachment, but forgetful of others' interest, it is an undiluted downfall. If you have dedicated a certain thing to someone else who knows it and has taken possession of that thing, and then, motivated by self-interest and an intention to steal, you make use of that thing, this qualifies as stealing and is a breach of the vows of individual emancipation. Not only that, also we can include with that the bodhisattva vow, if you have taken upon yourself the vow. It says, as the companion of training makes clear, we should examine how a bodhisattva should behave when he or she makes use of such things. If we make use of something with the intention of working for sentient beings, there will be no moral faults.
럽딜레 다보드 집이 론주남 기스 다보드 집이 루송 냠도 삼니제나 니바메디 젠 따도 지위레 제바 강기 초 다기 제여바는 마이노 셰소 대들 삼네 챤랑고지 조웨랑기 론주는 님보메도 냠네 된 마인디 데니엘레 대들 집이 천주선비 태도 가시기 대코나 마리바 마데바 자바는 미리테 똥위 샘 ngotser chenpo chen yonsu shibichir tsundalanin gashiki tezum chaba mirik shesong sos.
So then the companion of training, another text by Shantideva, says, there will be no fault if you think I should use these with the intention of protecting both the possessions and their owner. This is similar to the case of a slave who always in the service of his master has no belongings of his own. You might think that it is futile to dedicate your possessions to others since you are using them yourself. This is not so. The above text says, some who have not realized suchness lose faith in bodhisattvas who practice in this way. This is unreasonable because such bodhisattvas have a thorough realization of the magnificent thought of giving. It is therefore inappropriate for others to have doubts about how they behave.
어디를 딘자당 안도 대바침비 추 칭인 속을 대바침비 추 제신바이나니 아니 배 솔라보치 뒤즈톤동 지금 나올라야 솔라보치 조르야 비기다 지 아니 지서전통 로차냥도 강급값이 인바이나야 아니 개와 아니 배 아니 랍침부 드기야 대바치 로시나 어 딘디지 레샤스 다 마시바이 이나 대바침부 추려야 슈 대바침부 추제 마싱인지만아 아니 예배 찰파 대바 딘디지 자고서 다디 아니 조조디 다지 로종 딘딜라 쇠비기 다지 야스치모 시발로 소미 쫀주그리 장골람 송가바 침비 소미 지 람람 체종 첸디 총숨로 소바 어디기들야지 로종데 스난토바나 안 대바침비 추디 원이 대바침비 추디 제싱이지 차그러스 데니 에 다야고 베용사레스.
Such practices are practices of the Mahayana Dhamma. And if you know how to put it into practice, if you know how to put into practice the Mahayana Dhamma, then in a short period of time, just briefly, you will be able to accumulate a great accumulation of the collections. You'll be able to incorporate that in whatever you do. When you eat something, when you drink something, when you travel somewhere, sit down, lay down, in all those different activities, within a short period of time, you'd be able to amass a great amount of the collections. Whereas if you don't know how to put it into practice, if you don't know how to properly do that, then when you engage the Mahayana Dhamma, rather than benefiting you, you can create faults. It would be, you can say, part of behaving in a faulty way. So in order to become knowledgeable about the way to put it into practice, then we study texts such as Shantideva's Guide to Bodhisattva Way of Life. There are different compilations of texts composed by Lama Tsongkhapa, the Great Exposition on the Steps of the Path of Enlightenment, the brief one, the intermediate one. So we studied them, right? We studied them. And through that, we become knowledgeable with respect to what we need to do in order to put into practice the Mahayana Dharma.
다 되는 다 니바들에서 사진 니바들다 년주 공부 출세디 년지 공부 출들에셔스
So then the next section in the text explains the way to develop compassion, to meditate on compassion.
데레다 니는 다 년지 공비기 페유 상원디 반덴다와 차베기다 쇼드 마장치네 년지 공비 페유 송고도스라 다데소디 그 대버친비기 최징인래야 시샤네 아니 년지게 페유디 오면 주변나라야 대버친비 최징이 시샤부터니 아니 년지 페유 송디 아니 즉 산지드위야라야 통다 발송라야 개체슈디 년지 임바 균센드치네 년지 두고야기 고바드 송고도스
Now, in this text, meditation on compassion begins with basing this explanation on Chandrakirti's text. So Chandrakirti, an Indian master, explained the way to develop compassion, to meditate on compassion. And for us practitioners of the Mahayana Dharma, when we think of creating the basis for the practice of the Mahayana Dharma, we develop an appreciation of the meditation on compassion. As it said, it is important at the beginning, in the middle, and at the end.
데르다 디 코란 비게다 지 줍단 찌그레스 다 데네 년지 개체슈 임바디 다 densan 자व름 치게든 뒤도 남건도 송대야디 라 믹스게 비게다 지 차비든지 자좀 난체 아니 군교 샘게세지 라 다카스보다 난주 축추 쟁에 있는다 추 매칭이 있는다 탐제라야 아니 공고 영인기 아니 샘디 아니 제원인지 전부 차기도스 인지 첨부스 민따자로 마다 제원인지 차기도스 라 안간 잠블리 나 라임바이나야 아니 만다야디 가지 용야기 쪼디 아니 제위 만담에 왕기 라 제워 슈총저에 왕기 아니 녀다 용구여봐 동아 용구여봐디 다 세부레스네 송대야티 로딘자 인지디 최바자마인바 심장 탐제라야 아니 공고 예비게 아니 로디 인지디 차고레스 딘자 인지 고메데 베케션 보라
그냥 여름 부채 군겹 생계지 제가 디카레 패치민지
배치미 말디 로종지 로종단 간지 인지래야 제도 제자기로 인사래 군겹슬라운드 탐지래야 캬미 샘게티 인지티
So not only we find reasons or proofs for the need to meditate on compassion in the context of the Mahayana Dharma, but also when we look at contemporary masters, like for example, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, who always, in all the teachings that he gives, he emphasizes the need to develop compassion. And he speaks about it in a very pervasive way, right? A development of the man of enlightenment that would be pervasive for all, or generating a mind in a way that is all-pervading. It is relevant to not only those who are religious practitioners or Dharma practitioners, but it is also valid to everyone else in this world. It is important to develop this great compassionate love, regardless of whether you're a religious practitioner or not a religious practitioner, because particularly at this point in time, when we look at things that we are lacking in this world, different problems or issues, which for us are do not work out well, you can see how they are related to not having enough loving kindness and compassion to each other. And because of that, we end up experiencing suffering and problems. So therefore, to practice loving kindness and compassion, this great compassionate love, it's not a matter of just being a religious practitioner. It is valid to everyone in this world.
레딩한 주기 som당바이나로 강을 세워요 대라야 세워 지금은 도왔어 비기 따지 미 베나 미인바이나 미 가주스기 비기기 아니 콩로젠다 아니 마르비인바이나야 수수 세워요 세텔라 마르비 지금은 도왔어 로 세워 지금은 도왔어 아니 비기 돈루스임제인바이나 따지 젠센 따당시 dur singular sobada hajang be ani karso taji ngaji chen tindi ta ko ransing tindi yoras khorang zu yin bayana khorang zu zewa yosadela chambu chi gdos tinza zewa yona ani shidi yoyaji zewi somebody ki mandana ani shidi meba chagyoba gyasha gyadam bar tinza ti tolaya jawrum chi tugu shu shenang yores tinza I can't so big Suzu Yulong Gashing and Chig Mela Chushing Tindi Yobana and Piggy that you sang out Diana that and in Manesaya and Chobapia to the Yawurdania so Zutolaya and Yawrum Chika Karan and Yoba Shizong Chik Son to Wana Yaja Yatam Batini Pendo Shuch Yungus race.
And when we think of the importance of this great compassionate attitude towards others, we will not come to harm those who are close to our heart. If we really love someone, if we really care for them, we will not be harming them. And it might be that in some situations they become angry at you. They behave in a way that is ill-mannered. They mistreat you. And still, if you really care for them, if you really love them, you will not harm them. It's not only something that exists for us as human beings. When we look at what happens in nature, when we think of wild animals, wild beasts, animals that are powerful, tigers, lions, snakes, bears, or what have you, you can see that in certain behaviors they are harmful towards others, but there's still those who you can say that are close to the heart, those that they show signs of affection to, and they do not harm them. So if we develop that sense of love to others, not only we will not come to harm them, but also our mind will be more peaceful. It's honest that Dalai Lama has been speaking about it so strongly. And it is still relevant to this time and to this place. So particularly when we discuss it with others, when we teach it to others, it's really important to emphasize the importance, the efficacy of the development of love and compassion towards others. So we take up different things in our spiritual practice. So we might do a recitation of mantras, we might make offerings and so forth, and all those different practices are good, but then even more so, it is so important to develop loving kindness and compassion towards others. So it's really important to emphasize the benefits of those attitudes.
Dirida benata tesa jawrum chigida sonju mambu thadolaya sonju mambu sungores and sonju khadu sonaya ani chi chamnyeji chanju sem ti khadu inaya kicheshu cheni sungyor tinza ta tukdam gi chu di chamnyeji chanju sem imadi tobakora yomares di thoni an chi jigdin kamdilaya pendej yung di chi yabu chona di tonin pendo yungu yabadi jawrum chigita situgores inze di tolaya jawrum chig kagon telaya an chig su ta jawrum chig an chig lomi tela yongijina di tolaya chali des nantu bana yaja yatam bata pe masiba ani cholabu chires ro lagdun de tanda jawrum chig ku choshi shug de yebi kablaya ani suzugi shandev shutu bana labche yores ro jawrum ji gonle yaz per ta khazus ani gonde jalha shuyin sungor da jalha shuna lo chonga nishro re ani odindis ta tuzurim shu maro ta kanji jawrum chi ku soju kala ya an jawrum chi kasun truni ani drotu wana labche res ro
There are many teachings of His Holiness Dalai Lama that you can find at present online. And when you listen to the teachings, you can see how this great emphasis that His Holiness places on loving kindness and compassion, the development of bodhicitta, always emphasizes the importance of developing a sense of care for others. So there's no doubt that if you listen to those teachings, this is the message that you will get, the importance of loving kindness and compassion and bodhicitta. You can see how it is important it is in the world. So if you think of yourself as a follower of those teachings, as a follower of His Holiness and Dalai Lama, then this is what you need to train it. This is what you need to develop in your trainings. And if you do so, you'll be able to accumulate a great amount of the collections. And it is particularly important to do it when you consider how His Holiness is already in his mid-80s. Some say that he's going to live for more than 100 years, however, whatever age he's going to reach, but it's not a long time, considering that he's already in his mid-80s. So particularly now, when you think that he's going to stay with us only for just a few more years, it's really important, particularly now, to do whatever we can in order to develop in our practice, in our training, the development of loving kindness and compassion and bodhicitta. Particularly at this point in time, they will become of great power.
대단히나 니와 닌지 공비 솔스 닌지 전부 공비 편여선바 마음도 땅나 쪼슈표에 대르시바 차오스 대형 오문주벌레 간시증이 야벨로도 분송디 사변되는 벨라춘데 유린도 롱전네라 მომ바다본 되게바 디제다기 토모닌지 또버기스 반덴다와 타베로 오문주보다 딘디기 삽기기 추도 송역할이야 아니 토모를 저닌지 전벌이야 쳐버저고야 균젠디 테인스.
So the text begins the explanation of the meditation on compassion with saying, now I shall explain the benefits of meditation on great compassion, repeated contemplation of which will increase your delight in it. The supplement to Nagarjuna's treatise on the middle way, this is Chandakirti's supplement to the middle way, says, because this alone is the excellent crop of the conquerors, the propagated seed, and the water that sustains, and the fully ripened fruit at the time of harvest, I first pay tribute to great compassion.
Terdadi pandadawa tabe rangzu cheja mayimba komme lome mayimba kong kal torisani chomden derang ya kong tu shaba imba di tengi on the signals chuyan tawa dwale kya chomden de chanju samba chumambo labar mikiwo chomden de chanju samba chuchi rabdu sonshen rabdu zobar kina sangi ki chu tamji langdina chibajin du lakso chuchi wo kanshinan dadadi ninji chimbo was.
Now, it's not that Chandakirti, in emphasizing the importance, the value of great compassion, has just made it up himself. It's not his own creation. It's not that it is without a source. The source of those teachings is the teaching of the Buddha, the Bhagavan. So it says in our text, with regard to this, to its practical value, the Compendium of Perfect Doctrine says, O subduer, bodhisattvas do not train in many teachings. Or subduer, if they perfectly grasp and accomplish one doctrine, they have enlightenment in the palm of their hands. If you ask, what is that doctrine? It is great compassion. Shall we leave it here for today? All right. So let's do some dedication prayers. Janchu semcho rinpoche, make panan kegyochi, kewa nyamba me payang, gone gondo tewa shokam, gewa di nyudu da lama sangye dugyone, drowa chikya malupa te sala gopa sho. Kangri rawe kowe
Kowe
shinkamdi,
shinkansu,
pendan
pendan
dewa
dewa,
malu
malu
juwe ne,
jungwe
chenre
chenre
si
sewa,
wan tenzin
tenzin gyatso,
yatso i, shape
shape
si
sende
te
bardo
bardu tengyuru
tengyuru
chi,
chi,
toni ninje sundu
jube
jupe lan,
lam
cheche
chechere
saje
samje
kanche
kanche
tendrungun,
tendringon,
chana
chana
pe
pe
mo
mo
tenzin
tenzin
yatso
gyatso,
la,
so
sowa
wan
de
de
so
so
shendun
shendun
lurdu
lundru
sho.
sho.
Tu su
Cham
jan chin
chin
jang
jang
gung
gun
gya
gya we,
we ten
ten
zin
zin
pyong
jong
pe
pe
we
we
kum
gong
so
su
do
ho.
po tse cho
Cho
sung
sung
ko
ko
we
we
le
le ma
mun tu
yu
ju pa
pa
da
da
so
so
du
du
je
shi gong
gong
du
du
sha
sha ten
ten
sho.
shu.
So thank you very much. We begin the money retreat tonight, and we'll go all the way to Friday. So Geshe will not be teaching the Friday morning session. We will still have, I think, the last money retreat session on Friday. And also during the following weekend, Venerable Tony is teaching Discovering Buddhism. So we will also not have next week is Sunday morning teachings. Venerable Tony will be teaching instead. Anything else? That's about it. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the day.